this module, we'll cover the voicemail of each of the extension. It is voicemail is part of all different PBX license types or editions, irrespective of the size of the license. The voicemail box can have a different language than the default system language, which I believe is English, which allow you to have a truly multilingual PBX. Where each extension can have a different prompt language, but obviously this requires the relevant prompt set to be downloaded to the PBX to enable the language in the drop-down box. Now I'll give you one of our sister company actually uses 3CX as a PBX, and then what they have done is they have some people working in Europe, and they are actually using the local. They have their own local language voicemails and other bits and bobs just to give the European customers or the local customers their own language and kind of a seamless kind of experience, because they then think that it's they're talking to a local person rather than an international company, if that makes sense. So the voicemail system can be obviously also can be configured to make outgoing calls from the PBX. So this is kind of quite an old way of doing things, where people used to be able to dial to a voicemail number, voicemail box, and then from there they can dial out a number. It's still being used a bit, but not that often, I'm aware of, because effectively the 3CX application just makes it so easier for you to dial or to connect to your PBX and dial a number. But if you are living in a remote location where the Wi-Fi or internet connection is not great, or 4G connection is not great, for example, this voicemail system can still come in quite handy, where you dial from your mobile phone to a voicemail box, and then from there you make an outgoing call. Why do you need it? At the moment, it's purely for the employers to monitor what calls you're making. You're not using personal mobile phone, obviously. You're making obviously calls from the PBX, but at the same time, it's for call recording and 100 different reasons, really. So, effectively, all you need is to point a DID to the main voicemail extension, or dial the voicemail number from within the standard digital receptionist. Now, this will be covered in the next module anyways, and then that will prompt the caller for an extension number and voicemail PIN number, which you can find in your email, Falcon email box. Now, once you have authenticated it, the caller will then need to go to the option of the voicemail by pressing 9, and then choose option number 3. And that effectively the number will then be requested, and the PBX will then place the call on behalf of the caller. So another reason is if you do want to make a call out and you want to obviously show that you're calling from a certain company, obviously from outbound caller ID point of view, you can use that for presenting your outbound caller ID when you're making an outbound call, rather than displaying your mobile number, and the customer, obviously the end user, don't really know who's calling from that number. So from within the voicemail option, it is also possible to change the profile state as well. This would be option number 1 if the caller needs to do that. It is to follow the prompts to select the profile they want. Now, what is a profile? Profile is your status, effectively, or which will appear on your web client, on your mobile clients, or on a different. You can do that obviously from your mobile phone as well. But again, if you're a remote location, if going from a remote location and you want to set it on your vacation, or if you want to set your status to be away, busy, do not disturb, vice versa, you can do that from voicemail menu as well. So voicemail notification: when you receive a voicemail, there are various various ways to be notified of an incoming voicemail. The most traditional way is to see the message rating indicator on the phone, which is like a flashing red light, which is always a good way to get someone's attention. But not all phones will flash. Some just lights up, some just prompt saying there's a with an envelope symbol on it, and it really depends on different make and models. So in addition to the message rating indicator of the phone, 3CX also send, or you can actually make 3CX also send an email notification to the extensions users, and this could also contain the notification, but it may also contain the actual voicemail as an attached WAV file. There's also an option to delete the voicemail from the PBX after sending it from the email attachment. And now this option obviously assumes that a valid email address is assigned to the extension. And a valid SMTP server is defined on the PBX. Or you can use 3CX's own SMTP server, which is part of the standard licenses. Now, the option is to send the voicemail as a WAV file attachment of the extension users, and deleting the voicemail from the PBX is handy to keep the PBX disk usage to a minimum. Because eventually, the more voicemail, if you have very busy PBX, you don't really want the voicemails to be, to be using all your available disk space, especially in a hosted environment where the charge for the space is, reasonably higher. So you do want to make sure that you send it and delete it, or maybe you can archive it as well at a later stage. But there are different options, as I said, are available. So with the 3CX application and the web client, it is also possible to see the list of voicemails received in one easy to read kind of interface. You just log in and everything is there. From these interfaces, it is also possible to manage the voicemail, which allow you to mark them as heard or unheard, or even delete from the PBX, assuming the email sending notification option obviously is not set to delete them. Now, there is a default greeting of available for each different kind of available language set on the voicemail of the extension. Now, but it is possible to customize this and record your own prompts. A lot of companies also have their own professionally recorded prompts available as well, or added to the voicemail system. So you can upload them from either from the web client or by logging in, or asking the administrator to do this for you. Or you can record it one directly from your provisioned phone, which effectively gives you a bit more personalized greeting and can make the person more comfortable that they can hear a familiar voice rather than a generic prompt or robotic prompt effectively on certain PBXs. So while uploading a pre-recorded voicemail greetings, please ensure the audio file is in the proper 3CX supported format. If it is not in the listed format, the PBX will not accept the file. While also when a greeting is recorded, you can assign it to all the extension profiles, or have a different greeting for each 5 different profiles available for this extension. Now, profile, I'm talking about profile. Now, effectively profile, again, this is covered in more intermediate course, but what it means is a profile is your status indication, whether you are away, whether you're busy, whether you're on a vacation or on a lunch break, and vice versa. So you can have different voicemail messages played at different based on your status. So if you are on a lunch break, you probably want to say, "Hi, I'm in a lunch break. I'll be returned by 2 o'clock," and vice versa, and I'll return your call. Please leave a number, and vice versa. So you can do that in a quite a nicer way on 3CX PBXs. Again, this is more covered in intermediate training course. Anyway, so I'm not going to cover the different profiles, but give you an idea. That is what you can do when recording call prompts or recording prompts in other languages. Such some admins or users may enter the file name using non-standard characters, depending on which country they're using. So, for example, with accents or non-English alphabets, the system will not accept such characters. File name must be in English characters. So that's one of the things you have to make sure, like a Latin have their own A in a certain way. So you need to use English characters for it to be added. So this is probably one of the cool features of actually on 3CX is it allows you to transcribe a voicemail. Now, when a voicemail is received, sometimes obviously it can be very sweet and short, and nobody really needs to listen to go through different menu options to read get the actual message. So, and sometimes it can be quite long-winded, and this will take up a lot of person's time as well. So what you can do is you can use the voicemail transcription functionality. Now, this is using a third-party API, effectively namely Google Speech API. 3CX are able to have a transcript of the voicemail. This provides an easy way to seeing the content of each of the voicemails through the through the email notification and the 365 web application, which you can probably see here. It's been transcribed. It says, "Hi, please give me a call back. Thanks." And you can see who's left the voicemail and vice versa. Okay. This way you don't have to listen to each and every message you see, and you only see the ones which are important ones. Now, the important bit is voicemail transcription requires a professional or enterprise 3.6 license to be activated on the PBX. And this is a feature which is enabled globally for all extensions. You can't have it just enabled for one extension. It either is enabled for everyone or not enabled for none of them. Some configuration is necessary on Google Cloud Platform, as well as the PBX, in the form of creating the API key on the Google Cloud Platform and copying this over to 3CX in order to allow proper communication between the two. Now, there is a limitation on this, namely that the only first minute of the voicemail can be transcribed, and the reason being is it's a free service. If you do want to do like an hour's worth of transcription, you probably have to pay extra and get a proper paid for transcribed service from Google. Now, voicemails are generally recorded and saved in a WAV file. And that WAV file, because of the way it's saved, it saved the file, it can take up significant amount of space on the hard drive. Now, there is an option to or what we call it a quota. So a quota for the voicemail can be assigned in order to limit the amount of disk space being used by voicemail files. And when a quota is assigned, the admin will want to probably be notified when a certain quota is reaching. For example, when it reaches 75% or certain 90% and vice versa, an email can be sent out to the administrator, which basically means a quota is nearly full. Please do something about it effectively. So the administrator can then log into the PBX and see who's got the most voicemails, and maybe speak to the relevant people, or send an email to everyone saying, please get rid of your voicemails. Because again, sometimes people do listen to the voicemails but never actually delete the old ones. And if you don't configure voicemails to be deleted from the server immediately after being sent to the user via email, you can configure server to delete all old voicemails older than a specific number of days. For example, here by default, I think it's set to 30 days, but you can obviously do also different things as well. Now, the most important thing is voicemail security. I have seen a lot of hacks in the past, in the last few, since obviously the early days of voicemails, because voicemail allows you to make an outbound calls. I've seen people using it, for hacking and to make fraudulent outbound calls. So, in security of the voicemail, it should be handled very carefully and should be treated very, with a high risk effectively. So when the voicemail is not needed, it should be disabled on certain extensions. This could include phones in common areas, like, for example, receptionists, kitchens, and what it will do is it will prevent people from using those functionalities, like voicemail dialing and making external calls and vice versa. Authentication to the voicemail system can also be disabled in some cases, where you will just want to call the voicemail to receive messages from the phone provisioned on the specific extension without entering a PIN number. Now, calling to the voicemail number system from another extension or from outside via a DID or DDI will require authentication with a PIN number. Again, the PIN number is generally, just a 4-digit number, so it's not really. It's only 4,000 numbers people can try. The hacker can try before they can get the right one. Well, obviously it's 4,000 by 4, so it's a lot of things, but it's effectively hackable. So effectively increase the number of, if you do use it, increase the number of digits in your PIN authentication to something random. Never use 0000011111222 and vice versa, which is very easier to help. Also, if you're using in a secure environment like a hotel room where not everyone has access to voicemail authentication, you may not be required in such cases. And in this particular example, it will make access to voicemail easy for the guest hotels or for the hotel guests. So when PIN authentication is required, there is a hard code limit on how many times a PIN number can be entered. This is now by default set to 3 failed attempts, after which access to the voicemail system will be blocked for a period of 2 minutes. So it's not high, but it will stop the access for 2 minutes. And so the ability to make outgoing calls, which I was talking about earlier, is from the voicemail menu is disabled by default. And will need to be specifically enabled from the general settings of the PBX to allow this functionality to work. Okay. Another thing is backups. This is actually not covering the backup because it's more detailed covered in intermediate training course. But again, backup is an important element of the system. And provide effective peace of mind, to the administrator. If something goes wrong or horribly wrong, then at least you have a backup to upload to. So the backup of 3CX systems are so, very easy to perform. There's absolutely no excuse for not having a backup of your PBX. I am running a training, a demo PBX, and even I have backup set up on my system just to be on safe side, so I can effectively, and it happens every night. It sends me a mail saying you've got the backup, download backup, vice versa. But the important bit is the voicemails are not backed up by default. So if you do need to have a backup of the voicemails, there is a tick box when you're creating a backup to create and make sure backup voicemails are part of the backup. The more bits you add to the backup, the bigger the file becomes, obviously. So you need to make sure you use send email and delete option to reduce the backup size. But if you do, again, as I said, if you don't use that, if you do use voicemails, then obviously make sure that you would probably see the backup the size will become bigger and bigger depending on how many voicemails are being received every day. Just to give you an idea, an audio file on the 3CX server generally takes about 1 MB per minute of audio. Okay, so if you have a half an hour audio conversation or voicemail or recording and vice versa, that's about 30 MBs, of the call. So that's about it really from that point of view. I don't really know what I can show you, but again, I will cover some of the things of the voicemail anyway. So just bear with me 1 second while I grab my screen back. Right, okay. So creating a voicemail, again, I'm taking you back to my PBX. It's pretty much straightforward. You go to extensions, click on one of the extensions, like I've got, don't have to click anything, but click anything, and then you go to voicemail. And in the voicemail, you have this option. You can either use standard English prompts or you can create in UK English prompts. You've got the PIN number, which is again sent as a part of the welcome email. Then read time, you can obviously make it to read date and time. You can send email notification vmail as an attachment, or you can send it as an attachment and then delete from the inbox. You can also disable voicemail PIN authentication, and as I said, you probably only want to disable it so only the extension or only the phone which has this extension can dial in. If you disable it, not other people. So if I have an extension 105, I can't dial in to it because obviously I have to disable voicemail authentication. You can also make it to play caller ID, and here you can also upload your own voicemail greetings. The requirements for voicemail greetings or the file size is this, and the maximum size is 100 megs, but it needs to be PCM, 8 kilohertz, 16-bit mono. That's what the recording is. You can click on add recordings. Obviously, this will then prompt you to upload one. You can record it, and when you click on record, it asks you which extension number you want to record the greeting from. I've got one of these phones here, so I can say busy. I can just name it whatever I want to name, and if I do 101, you will probably hear my phone is ringing. So my phone is ringing. If I answer,
record your message, then press hash.
Right, and then I can then record my message on the phone, and then once I've done this, I can press hash.
To save message, press 0.
And I'll press
your message saved.
Okay, and that's how easy it is to do that. So if I go back, and there you've got my busy WAV file recorded here. Okay, so that's how easy it is to do that as well. If I can quickly show you manage options, you can delete, you can play, you can download, so you can also do different things by clicking on manage to manage your different kind of voicemails. There was another thing I was giving you an idea about, which is effectively forward to voicemails. So if I click on status, you can see in the status field we have available, busy, do not disturb, lunch, business trip. So in the lunchtime, if you want to have a different voicemail, then you can obviously, as I said, you can still forward it to voicemail, but then in the background you can select different, you can different statuses. You can choose lunch and vice versa from the phone, and then you can select it from here. And I think that's about it from the voicemail. I can actually show you voicemails on the PBX as well, so just bear with me a second. Now I am going to try and log in as my from web client using the extension, so which is my extension number. So this is the actual web client for end users effectively, and you can see what's going on. I can see also different things here: chat option, call history, voicemail. So that's again another thing. I don't have any voicemail set up obviously on this one. I've not received any voicemails, but I can search for voicemails, and I can do also different things with the voicemails as well. Okay. Again, you can record your greetings based on different things. You can default, available, away. You can do that easily, much more easier yourself by just doing it on the web client. I think that covers the voicemail option. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at some of the questions I've been receiving. So just bear with me 1 second while I read the questions and try and answer those. Okay, I just had one more person complaining about the audio. I've not had anybody complaining about it so far, so I'm not sure where the issue is. It could be the GoToWebinar software causing the issue, unfortunately. But if everybody is obviously not having issues, then I'm presuming I am okay for now. So the questions: can all voicemails be backed up centrally before being deleted off the system? I would say it's more like of a manual process. After you answer the call as well, so you can manually do that as well if you want to. But it can be backed up by using the back. Again, we're not covering the backup option anyways. But if you go to backup, you can click on backup, and then you can click on backing up of voicemails and backing up recordings, and you can select the right things anyways if you want to back up. And you can do schedule backups and restore backups and all sorts of different things. Can voicemail be directed to send to multiple destinations, like another extension or an email? It's more like you're talking about, I'm presuming you're talking about more groups. So if you want to send an email, let's for example, you want to create like a group voicemail thing, then all you have to do is you have to create like a dummy extension number. And then effectively you can use an email address which is more like a shared inbox, like a group email box. And what you can do is from there you can use that to send it to multiple people. So maybe you can assign the extensions voicemails to different. You can send the voicemails to different things. So let's, for example, if you disable that voicemail. Generally, I don't know what the scenario is. It could be different scenarios. But if an inbound rule set up, you can effectively you can have the during office hours send it to extension or ring group or whatever, and out of hours you can say send voicemail box to extension, and you can select that extra dummy extension you have created, which is not registered to any handset. It's just there to act as a group voicemail, and what it will do is when somebody leaves a dummy voicemail for this dummy extension, it will send a message, an email out to everybody in the group effectively. So that's more how you can do that as well. So I've still got the answer. People have been saying that the audio is fine. So unfortunately, I believe it's probably your browser, or maybe our GoToWebinar software, which is probably doing something. So I do apologize. Obviously, this unfortunately don't have much of a control on GoToWebinar software. But it seems most of the people are unaffected by it so far. Right. Okay. So I think that is it from questions point of view. Right. Let's move on to the next step. So just bear with me 1 second. Let me get that other bit up. Right. So the next one is digital receptionist. Now, again, most of you have heard of digital receptionist. It's pretty much simple. It's the you hear these things on a daily basis.